Hello, everyone. So today I have Vidya Mary Jacob, who is a product manager in Dell, and we're gonna ask her some couple of questions about leadership and organizational behavior. Hi, Vidya.
Hi Dheeraj, how are you?
I'm good. So, do you want to give a little intro about yourself?
Yes, so I currently work as a product manager in Dell. So it's part of the enterprise business intelligence domain that I work as. Also, it's not really a physical product that I handle over here. It's more into data management. So I work with developers and testers, and I kind of am the interface between them and the data science teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. All right. So let's join. Let's get started with the questions. So, how can limited time impact the workplace? Can you think of an example of when you've been in this situation?
Limited time for deliverable, you mean?
Yeah, like you should build products.
In our organization right now, we follow this concept of MVP, which is a minimum viable product. So I think that is kind of our go-to strategy. You always provide something that the business can work with, even if it's not full-fledged and doesn't have all the frills of the final product. So we design our sprints so that we always end up delivering at least a piece of it, a functioning piece to the business. So when you talk about timelines, I think this is what I think teams should consider uh, providing business value at a quick rate because we know how competitive the market is. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So, can you think of an example when you've been in this situation? Like,
I think it's kind of like a daily practice for us. So our sprints are like 10 working day, 10 business day sprints. So each sprint, so like I mentioned initially, we handle the data management piece, right? So we kind of have a quick churn. We push data in for the data science team onto upgraded platforms. So we kind of prioritize based on what the business needs to report to the finance users at the end of the day. So our stakeholder, right, they provide reports directly to Michael Dell, who's the CEO of the organization. So based on what they need to report on a quarterly and a monthly basis is how we prioritize what data needs to get they need to have access to first. So that's how we kind of design our sprints. And also so in my team we have 8 developers. Okay, so it's not that everyone's actually trying to deliver business value. Some of them are focused on innovation and stability, like how security is kind of the biggest concern of organizations at the moment. So we have a bunch of them who are trying to optimize the processes internally and ensure that your data is not really susceptible to external threats. So we have a couple of them focused on that, while the others are focused on delivering, the business needs.
mm-hmm. True. Okay, cool. So, can you anticipate, like maybe in future you'll have very limited time in your workplace? Like maybe one of your sprints would be having a lot of deliverables and very little amount to meet them.
So again, it's back to how we prioritize our backlog, right? If you're saying limited time, you're saying the number of
Sorry,
work chunks are a lot, right? That cannot be accommodated. So if something comes in, something has to actually exit the sprint. So it's all about business priority once again.
okay.
So limited time. First thing, the key point is communication. If you are saying you have limited time, it depends on who's providing this time frame to you, right? So usually we are in constant discussion with our business, and we give them a feel of how long a particular thing will take to be delivered to them. So when you say limited time, is it coming from them, is it our limitation as a development team? It's very ambiguous over there.
Okay, yeah. Maybe if your stakeholders are telling you like we have this deadline to meet, we need to go live, and there are a lot of backlog stories. So I know
Yeah, so
priority,
uh,
but
yeah, so it's always kind of a backward planning that we do, going back from the deadline that they have. But again, it has a lot of restrictions when you see when it comes to release management. We cannot just keep deploying changes on every single day. We have like certain windows within a month where we can deploy. So our stakeholders are aware of these windows, and we have made it clear that outside this window we cannot really deploy a new change unless it's such a business critical thing that their process itself is broken down. So when you say limited time, I think we always communicate ahead to the stakeholders. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to work with the timelines that are provided with you, and there's only so much you can
Yeah,
deliver.
cool, perfect. That sounds like a smart move. Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next question. That is, how can too much work impact your workplace? Have you? Can you give us some example of your previous? Like, have you ever come across such situation, and what did you analyze, realize, figure out, learn?
So, in terms of too much work, you mean how it's affecting the personal life of the employee? Is that where you're going with
Like
this?
the organization, if you have like, if you dump on too much work, like if you give them like edge to edge, too much work, 40 hours, you need to work every minute. Only then you would be able to reach your goals, deadlines.
So, okay, to give an example, in our 8-day work day, right, we allocate 6 hours to the actual work that needs to be done. The remaining 2 hours are a buffer where we give that flexibility to employees to attend calls. So, especially being a developer and a tester, right, you have a scrum call which takes up half an hour every day, and then you always have questions. Especially in a pandemic, we are always on calls. You can't just walk over to someone's desk and clear something.
Okay.
So that 2 hour buffer gives them enough time to get on calls. Especially, we also have these calls with leadership, right, where they talk about the quarterly reports and how the company is doing. So I think it's important for everyone to know how the organization is doing, uh, what the impact of your work is. So everyone's always encouraged to be part of these innovation cycles that I mentioned earlier. It's not just okay, you need to deliver what is given to you. It's also about self growth, about taking your career to a different path, right? That kind of a flexibility also needs to be given. Otherwise, why are they going to stick on? It's Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you read and adapt to the situation when this thing happened? Like when you got too much work, maybe not like 8 hours, but when you had same thing, you too much backlog stories, and your maybe your stakeholders say that we need this, we need to meet this deadline, and maybe some of your resources got cut off, or some of them fell sick, or few people are just leaving and they don't want to be.
Yeah, so that risk is always there, right? Every time. So, in terms of too much work, yeah, we do tend to push back if it's unachievable, is what I would say. But uh, if it really is pushed by the requesting team, then we sort of engage our higher ups to have a discussion. We don't want anything to be escalated, right? Even we want to deliver, we want to prove that okay, we are worth your time and the money that you're putting into us. So it's not that we are pushing our boundaries and going beyond our work schedules that impact our personal lives, but then I think pushing back and saying no sometimes is important.
True. Nice. That's a right way to put it, I guess. Okay, so can you anticipate being in such situations in future? Like what are you said, and when is it likely to happen? If you have any insights.
Probably, I think once everyone goes back to office, right, to the physical workspace, you never know how everyone's going to adapt. It's going to be a drastic change after 1 year. You never know when they're going to call us back. So I think that might kind of take a toll on people. So probably that's when everyone would need to kind of ease off and get into the new work schedule or the new normal, as they say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is expected, but how we deal with it is again we have to plan according to the situation. Then, like people having kids and all, are they going to school? Are they going to be at home? There are a lot of factors that come into play.
Yeah. So what options will you have then, and how will you adapt? And the same thing
Uh,
scenarios happen when they come back, and then it's too much work. People feel tired, burnout.
I think so. One thing that the organization has taken up is, especially during Corona, they've given a lot of leaves flexibility to employees. So that is something that employees can avail. So even in my team, right, we do have weekend support. So a couple of hours on Sunday. So even though they do spend that time on Sunday, we ask them to take an equivalent amount of time off during the week to compensate for what they are spending here. So it's again about working within your team to ensure the deliverable is not impacted, but kind of adjusting your schedule within your team, within your teammates. Whoever has the flexibility can pick up work, and later on, you can kind of rotate. I think that will help.
Perfect. Awesome. Cool. So let's move to the next question. How can other people not doing their part impact your workplace?
Oh, I think it'll be like a cascading effect. Like if we have that dependence on someone else to deliver our work, it is really going to hamper the timelines downstream. So it again depends on the criticality of what it is to the business. But yeah, I think if you are a team dependent on someone else, it's your responsibility also to be on top of it and to constantly follow up to see that they are meeting the timeline. So um, I think the best thing would be to have a planning session before the different teams engage in this particular area of work and decide the timelines, at least tentative timelines, and have enough buffer for if things go wrong. So I think working together is the key over here, and yeah, having constant touch on probably like weekly statuses or monthly, depending on how long the project is. That could give a sense of whether your deliverable is going to shift right or not.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So can you think of an example when this has happened? Like
Oh,
when?
it's happened a couple of times. So, yeah, so in fact, it just happened 2 days ago. So, our upstream team had to deliver some data in one of our platforms called Teradata, without which we could not push the data to the business. So that got delayed, and because of which business could not do their reporting. Um, again, like I said, in our IT system, we just have 1 week deployment per month. The deployment timelines itself are so tiny, right? So we had to kind of expedite the requests and get exception approvals from management to actually have that code pushed. So we are currently working on that right now. We are already past the deadline that we should have, pushed it to the business, but we're still working through it and trying to have it available as soon as we can. And we've also inform the business of the delay, and they are on the lookout and just waiting for the data.
Awesome. So did you read and adapt to the situation well when this happened?
Yeah, so like I said, it's also a learning sometimes that this happens. You can't really predict what goes wrong and for how long it'll take for things to come back. So yeah, I mean, to be constantly on toes. I think communication is the key. You really need to pacify your business, saying that okay, there was a mix up at our end, but we are working on it, and letting them know the status every single day and when the data will be delivered. That is the key. You need to really have that sense of trust also to make sure that they can depend, that business can depend on you, right? They shouldn't really be like, okay, IT does nothing. So to maintain that level of trust, I think you really need to communicate, and also let them know, be transparent, let them know what the issue was, why things did not work out, so that they also understand things from your point of view.
Okay. Perfect. So can you anticipate this happening in your future? When like
Yes, it could be the same thing, or I mean, obviously, it can't be the same thing. We will be better prepared for the same situation, but something else might come along.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's very volatile, so anything can happen. Yeah, employees might just go on a sick leave, or there might not be bandwidth within the team, or some other high priority item might just come into the backlog, which might push out something existing. So yeah, I think to tackle this, we usually prepare our roadmap. We have a quarterly roadmap prepared at the beginning of each quarter. So I think having an idea of what you need to deliver every quarter, that will help you better in planning and having contingency plans in place.
Okay, so I'm assuming you've taken care of having buffer areas so that you can adjust such
Yeah.
unexpected scenarios. Perfect, cool. All right, let's move on to the next question. This will be the final question for your session. Okay, how can conflict between and among employees impact your workplace?
Um, it can lead to a hostile work environment for the others in your team. If there's a conflict between two people, or if there's a conflict between the manager and the employee. So it can have an adverse effect on the other employees, or on your work that needs to be delivered also. Just ego comes in the way, or something happens. So again, it depends on what sort of conflict you're talking about. But it's key to work together and communicate and kind of work through it.
Mhm.
Yeah. It again depends on the extremity of the conflict. So if you have any particular example, maybe we can discuss that.
Okay, cool. So, can you think of an example when this has happened, or when you have been in this situation?
Um, it was in my previous organization actually. So there was a conflict between the employee and the manager. I think at that stage we had to kind of get the HR involved to have a discussion with the two of them. So that did work out eventually. But yeah, it's all about listening to what the other person has to say and trying to work things out between the two, or between whoever the conflict is. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, did you analyze the situation well when this happened, or were you very
Yeah, like I said, so the two parties, whoever had the conflict, we did listen to what they had to say, but then it did require the intervention of human resources. So that's the reason we actually had to pull them in. But yeah, that was the action.
How could you have read and adapted to it better?
Um, I think having a regular cadence with employees would also help. It'll give you a sense of impending threat, or at least it will give you a hint of things not going well. Once you develop that trust, they might kind of open up to you if you have these regular interactions. I think also anonymous surveys are a good mechanism to tackle this. You send out a survey, and as long as the employees are not hesitant to provide honest feedback, I think that really helps in improving the workplace situations.
Okay. So, can you anticipate being in this situation in future, and when is that likely to happen?
That's a tricky question. I don't know if I can anticipate. Conflict is kind of unique to each situation. Yeah, I mean, it can happen at any point of time. And I don't really think we can predict this sort of thing. But like I said, if we implement anonymous surveys, we might at least get track of what's happening and can be proactive.
Okay, perfect. So, what options will you have then, and how will you adapt to it when it happens again?
Again, it depends on the situation. When you talk about options, it's always about probably getting a third person in to resolve the conflict. So that's what will help. Again, third person here depends on the situation, who it should be. If it's just the team lead, the manager, or maybe HR if it just goes a little extreme. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that sounds great. But did you ever like you said, I like the concept of having cadence with individual employees and
yeah.
check. check on their pearls and knowing how they feel and all stuff. But maybe we should. I mean, you should try like doing this team activities. Did we? I mean, did you guys get a chance to like participate in any team bonding activities or something like
Team bonding, yeah, I mean, virtually it's a little difficult, but monthly we do play Pictionary.
that? Okay.
So that kind of is a fun activity. It's just that since the number of calls have drastically spiked up, right, during the Corona period, we are trying to keep calls at unnecessary calls at a minimum. So in that sense, team bonding is not really working out in that way, but we do have our daily scrum call where the entire team gets on and then we discuss any issues or any latest happenings or something exciting happening in someone's life. So we cover all that in the daily scrum call. So yeah, bonding, I think once we are back to the workplace we might have some physical sessions.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that is the end of it. But thank you so much, Vidya, Mary, Jacob, for joining us and answering all our questions. And yep, that's it. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.